Just a heads up for any of you that feel like you may have missed something in this broadcast you want to go back and watch, or there's something you can't make out or doesn't look clear, please come. You can see the broadcast streaming or download it in its entirety at fantasysportpros.com.
We're back. Starting round 2, fantasyfootball.com has the first pick of round 2. And the way it works is you'll see it's a serpentine draft, so nobody has a distinct advantage. The first round, obviously pick number 1 goes and ends with pick number 12. In round 2, pick number 12, which is fantasy football, or team number 12, which is fantasyfootball.com, starts with pick number 1. So when we start going back, you'll see the first sticker will land under fantasyfootball.com, and the second round with the huddle. We'll have the last pick in the second round, first pick in the third round. We are just waiting on fantasyfootball.com. So we're going to send them a little message to get this thing going. We'll light a fire if we can. But you know, what you'll start to see here in the second round is you're going to start to see some wide receivers coming off the board. The running backs, you know, after just looking at my cheat sheet here, you know, after the top 14 or 15 runners, 12 of which we've seen, your value starts to drop off. I mean, we have a strategy called tiering. So what we do is we look at all the players in one position, and we segment them off, because we feel that groups of players will perform the same. So the way the strategy goes is we have, for instance, at the wide receiver position, the first 7 players in the first tier. So our attitude is if there's one player left in that tier, and there are 5 running backs left in a tier, let's say the third tier, 9 through 15, we're going to want to take that first wide receiver off the board because we feel it's more value in the first tier than the third tier running back. And we also feel that with 5 players left in the third tier running back, there's a possibility we get one of those 5 the next time we pick. So, you know, with a lot of running backs off the board, you're going to start to see some wide receivers being picked now. And as soon as I say that, fantasyfootball.com starts off the second round with Steve Smith, wide receiver, Carolina Panthers.
I got to tell you, that's a phenomenal draft so far for Ryan Houston. Getting Carnell Williams or Cadillac Williams at the 12th spot, it just isn't right, and getting Steve Smith at the 13th overall pick is a great way to start out the first 2 rounds. And just as we say that, like Ian was saying, we're going to start to see the run on wide receivers or stud wide receivers. Torrey Holt to fftoday.com to match up with Brian Westbrook. So each of these guys got a runner and got a receiver on their team, and we have ESPN on the clock, and matching up with Rudy Johnson, we'll see if he adds a wide receiver or if he goes to another running back. And actually, with that, believe it or not, looks like ESPN has chosen the dynamic Reggie Bush. Now, Reggie Bush is going to be a superstar in this league. He's not the go-to ball carrier. So it's a little bit early to take Reggie Bush. They still got Deuce McAllister there. He's still going to be the primary ball carrier. He's certainly going to be the goal line back. That being said, Reggie Bush is lightning in a bottle. Don't know I would take him at the 2-3, but
you can take it from the house take it to the house from anywhere. It's early. There's no question about it. But if this guy gets going, he's going to catch a ton of passes. They're going to split him out wide with Deuce in the backfield. And like John said, let's see if he can catch lightning in a bottle and he can catch 65 passes out of the running back position.
Yeah.
Because he can score. There's no question about it.
It's like drafting Mike Vegas.
Risky pick, risk-reward. Huge risk-reward.
I can't see it. I can't
Not
see
with the
taking
second
that
rounder. Not with the second rounder.
That's a big risk. I mean, the problem is, I guess in his mind, ESPN's thinking he's not going for another 18 picks. If he doesn't take him there, he's probably not going to see him again. So he has to reach for him, which is the problem in leagues when you draft towards the end, is if you really get a player you want, you better take him before somebody else does. And when you draft that late in the round, you better take him early. So obviously he wanted to match Bush up with Rudy. Now in this league, Reggie Bush will catch a lot of balls. He'll probably be the primary receiver. And when Deuce McAllister was the only guy they had there in New Orleans, he caught a lot of balls. So maybe Bush will get a lot of those balls. They're going to line him up at slot. They're going to line him up at wide receiver. You know, he'll certainly be exciting. There's no doubt about that. I just don't know he's worth quite that pick. So we now have on the clock Fantasy Index Magazine. He's got Ronnie Brown as his number 1 pick. I think he's got some room to make up with his number 2. Probably should add a real nice stud wide receiver here to make up some of the room, because Ronnie Brown, I don't think it's quite going to live up to the hype, but we'll see what he does here. And then we're going in 1, 2, 3, 4. So when we draft 4 picks away, what I tend to like to do is pick my 4 guys and know I'm getting one of them. And in our eyes, to match with Tiki, we'd love to get a stud wide receiver here. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, the backs that are left, you know, you're talking about Willis McGahee, Dom Davis, Julius Jones, Kevin Jones, Chester Taylor, who we happen to like and hopefully we'll get later on, you know, they don't add up to the stud wide receivers. Fitzgerald, Terrell Owens, Torrey Holt, which is, you know, getting back to what I was saying before, it all comes back to tiering. You have these stud wide receivers out there, and you have these secondary backs. So you want to take the stud wide receiver off, and I suspect that that'll happen a lot in this round. Once again, number 4, Fantasy Index, Marvin Harrison. So, you know, like I said, it's not a secret. You know, these guys know what they're doing. That's why we invited them. You know, we're looking for our player evaluations to be better than theirs. That's how we're going to beat them. Pick up a sleeper late in the draft. That's how we're going to beat them, because this draft is going to go, you know, like clockwork.
Absolutely. Marvin
Good
Harrison
players.
has been is a lock Hall of Famer. He's been a pass stud in this league and a top number 1 or 2 wide receiver taken for many years. This year, we've kind of downgraded him to the 7 or 6 slot on our wide receiver draft board. We're not quite as high on him as he has been. Reggie Wayne's really coming into his own as the number 2 there. It's not going to be the exact same offense without Edgerrin James. But Marvin Harrison, you can't argue with the production. He's basically a lock for 1,300 yards. And
If he doesn't get hurt, he's automatic.
Yeah.
Automatic.
Best quarterback in the league throwing you the ball. It's always a great pick to have. So we've got KFFL on the clock now. KFFL has Clinton Portis as their number 1 pick. Again,
I suspect we'll see Owens.
yeah, most
Fitzgerald.
people are, well, with that, looks like he decided to back up his first runner with another runner, and he's now drafted Willis McGahee, the Buffalo Bills. So he's got Portis and McGahee in the first 2 rounds. McGahee was, as we all know, he's had some real good seasons in the NFL, and he's had some that weren't quite so good, such as last year. He's a bit of a disappointment. He's fallen all the way to the 5th pick of the 2nd round, and I believe last year he was going in the top 6 or so. So.
Well, it's a grand slam for us. I mean, I can't believe that he would pass up on one of those receivers. But that's what we want. So, you know, we want to start doing our touchdown dance here.
2 picks away. We're on the clock. We got 2 picks. And we now see that Football Diehard swooped in and stole our Larry Fitzgerald. Great pick for
Okay.
him. Stinks for us. We were really sitting on him. We now have to think, do we take another running back to go with Tiki Barber, or do we take who amounts to our number 3 wide receiver, which is Terrell Owens, who brings the risk of basically just being Terrell Owens?